All right. Well, welcome everybody. Thanks for coming. And I did kind of ask earlier, why are you here? What do you believe about sleep? So Jennifer, do you want to share what your thoughts are on sleep?
I know it's really important for us.
Yeah. Yeah, very good.
We need it, to prioritize. It plays a big part in our day-to-day life.
Yep. Recovery, stress management, all those things play a part. So I recently did a sleep stress management recovery. It's basically a coaching certification, so I can coach people on those topics. And I would like to share with you what I learned. I really had some aha moments. I thought it was just really good information. And like I said, I'm not a doctor. These are just some general information about sleep that you may or may not know. Maybe it's a review from whatever grade we learn about sleep in, 4th grade science or whatever. But what's the definition of sleep? Basically, it's a behavioral state. It's your unconscious from the world around you, but you can also be aroused by stimuli. And if we are light sleepers or we toss and turn a lot, those kinds of things can make us maybe feel like we don't sleep enough, or if we have noises, or maybe if we don't have noises, all of those things, like the white noise we were talking about before. And how much? So adults, 7 to 9 hours per night. The research shows that teens need more sleep. Their brain and bodies are growing and developing. The more active you are, the more sleep you need. So like professional athletes need more sleep than the average person. And then obviously they're challenged with all of the other things that they need to do almost perfectly to be a professional athlete. And as we age, we become more, or I should say less efficient at sleeping, unfortunately. There is 1% of people that are long sleepers. They really need more than 9 hours of sleep. And there's about 1% of people that are short sleepers. They could run on 3-4 hours of sleep, and that's totally normal. But the rest of us fall into the category of that 7 to 9 hours of sleep that would be beneficial to us. All right, so let's talk about circadian rhythm. So to kind of understand sleep, we want to understand the whole natural rhythm of our sleep and our awake cycles. So we look to the sun and the moon to guide us. And then when we have daylight savings, that kind of messes us up, right? I feel like as I get older, I'm realizing that affects me more than it once did. So it's that 24-hour cycle, basically, that we're looking at. And jet lag and other reasons could be why our circadian rhythm is off. I had a lady in the class yesterday. She got up every morning at 3 o'clock for work, or 2 actually ladies in my class, and it's hard to get out of that habit, especially after you're retired and you don't really need to get up like that anymore. So one of the things that we can do is to get natural sunlight into our eyes in the morning, and so our sleep can be affected by what we do in the morning when we wake up. So we'll talk about that a little bit more. So the light acts as an anchor for your internal clock, helping to ensure the body's cells and organs function optimally at the right times. So, nowadays that we're in, artificial light so much of our days, even on overcast days, the natural sunlight is actually brighter than artificial lights. So really exposing ourselves to the outside, and in Wisconsin that's hard to do, and then not wearing sunglasses in the morning to really get that light into our eyes will help set that circadian rhythm. So if you're like, well, I don't know if my circadian rhythm is off or on, or you can do this little experiment. Basically, you use as little as possible of artificial light. So in the evening, when it's let's say after supper, you really dim the lights. You turn off cell phones, computers. You're not watching TV. You can relax with a good book. Then you go to sleep when you feel tired, and you might realize that you're tired sooner than what you normally go to bed at, or vice versa. You might be awake a little longer. Turn off your morning alarm, so hopefully it's a day that you don't have anything going on. And then note your sleep quality and your wake time, and just let nature, and sometimes you have to do this for a couple of nights, again, because you might be in the habit of waking up at a certain time. it could be something that you do for like a week and then just see what happens and see if you can reset your natural sleeping rhythm. And then again, getting that bright light as soon as you wake up, possibly even taking a walk outside or being in a room in your house that has lots of sunlight. So you can do that little experiment to try to reset your circadian rhythm. And like when it's daylight savings, we kind of over time, get used to that, right? And then, but I know the first,
it again.
yeah, and then they change it, right? I know that with my eating schedule, I get hungry at 4 o'clock then, or whatever time it is, or I'm not hungry when I should be eating, and I'm like, I don't want to eat too late, and all the things. So yeah, even an hour can really kind of mess you up, or jet lag, that kind of thing. Exposing your eyes to bright lights at night can do the reverse, right? Okay, so again, to better understand sleep, we want to think about the sleep cycles. And like Barb was saying, how she feels like she tosses and turns a lot and maybe is in a light sleep. So yes, we do all do that. So here are the times that we're close to waking up, but we maybe don't wake up, or maybe we do actually wake up. Here you actually, this person on this graph actually woke up. And you can see the first 90 minutes, so each of these cycles is about 90 minutes. This first cycle, and this is why it's important to go to bed earlier, anything before midnight is going to give you better sleep, is because we do drop into stage 4. So this is dream sleep, rapid eye movement. You can dream in these other stages, but it's more likely that you're dreaming up here, which is close to that wake. So we go into a deep sleep when we first fall asleep, and then we come out of that and we get into that dream state. And that might be where, if Barb's a little uncomfortable, she might actually wake up, because you're going to wake up. The chance of you waking up here are more likely than you waking up here. You're probably not going to wake up down here unless somebody external or something external is waking you up. So this is your normal sleep cycle. As you can see, you're not getting into that really deep sleep as you did in the beginning of the night. And as you get towards morning, you're getting less deep sleep overall, and then you're getting closer to that wake time. So sometimes, people say, okay, maybe this is at 4 o'clock in the morning. That's not when you really want to wake up. You might want to try to get back to sleep, but you're probably not going to get into a deep sleep, that kind of thing. Hi, Yvonne.
Hi, Yvonne.
We got a couple of chairs over there for you.
That's wonderful.
I thought that, I'm sure we've seen this before, again, in 4th grade science, but it's one of those things where I was just like, oh, that's so interesting. I just thought that was really made sense once I kind of was like, yeah, that makes sense with things that I've experienced in my sleep cycles. Okay, any questions on that? Again, there was a good amount of, in my certification, there's a good amount of like sciencey stuff, and I'm not like, that's not my strong suit, so I'm going to show you these waves, but the point of it really is just that they're different. In each of these stages, this is the non-rapid eye movement stage. We're getting these different kinds of wavelengths. Our brain is actually working hard while we're sleeping. While our body is still, our brain's working hard. And this one, this is like, again, that deeper sleep. We've got some big waves, and they're spaced out a little bit more. So when they put electrodes on you in a sleep study, that's what they come up with. So just something to note. We're not really going to go into that any further. So how do you know if you're getting enough sleep? So a lot of us think we don't get enough sleep. Is that really true? So maybe we have cranked up the music in our car to open the windows to make sure that you can get home late at night when we were younger. Or maybe you have lost focus while doing some simple tasks. And maybe last night I didn't get sleep, and I can definitely tell that, my brain's not working as well as it could. If you sit down and no matter what time of the day, and you fall asleep almost immediately, that's probably a good indication that you probably are sleep deprived. And also overeating can be a sign that you are sleep deprived. Your body is looking for energy from food, but really what you need is sleep. So those are kind of some cues. And let's talk about what causes someone to get sleepy. Again, this is kind of the scientific theme behind it, but it's called sleep drive. We all have a sleep drive. You cannot stay awake for very long, right? Like if you tried to stay up for 2 or 3 days, you eventually would fall asleep, right? So that's kind of the drive. And some people's drive is really strong. Like you just really find that your brain is telling you, your body is telling you, it's time to go to sleep. And other people, it's not real clear to them. And so they may be the ones that are staying up late, they think they're a night owl, you know, that kind of thing. Their circadian rhythm gets off because of a work schedule, things like that. So when you are awake, your brain is active, you're using energy, and then this ATP, which is the name of the product or the thing that's in your body, that's the energy byproduct that builds up, and then the more ATP that you accumulate throughout your day, the sleepier you're going to get. So like if you know that you did 3 or 4 hours of exercise or gardening, or you did something different that day, you were on your feet a lot longer, you might find that, oh yeah, I'm really tired tonight. Or coming back after vacation and all of a sudden you're getting back into your exercise routine, that seems harder, and your body's like, oh yeah, I really need to sleep. So while you sleep, your brain clears that ATP, the metabolic waste, including that as a byproduct that builds up. So basically, it's a neurochemical that builds up and that makes you sleepy. And all humans have an innate drive and capacity for sleep. Like I said, just like no lady has ever stayed pregnant for longer than, you know what I mean? Like, eventually you're going to give birth to that baby, right? Yeah. Eventually you have to sleep. So, and sometimes, again, you don't want to be sleeping at the wrong time, but that's kind of the scientific reason why we actually sleep. So why is sleep important? We talked about that a little bit before class. Every physiological process in some ways related to or influenced by sleep. So your physical, your brain, your emotions, your physical, it helps you regulate appetite, repairs and rebuilds and repairs valuable lean tissue, regulates blood sugar. You're actually making memories at night. Your brain is working to solidify those things, and so those dreams are coming from those memories, probably, right? And then weird. Yeah, I know. I had another lady yesterday that she was having some really strange dreams. So that means your brain is working hard. I don't know. Yeah, and it improves your thinking and concentration throughout the day. Emotionally, as we know, kids. We probably see it in kids more than adults because adults can regulate their emotions a little bit better. But kids, if they're tired, they throw the tantrum in the grocery store or whatever. You're less impulsive if you have good sleep, and you make better decisions. On this slide, we kind of talk about, deep health in the corner. So we talk about the physical health, emotional health, we just talked about mood and the physical pieces of it. We will talk about environmental a little bit later. And then the mental health, the being alert, and all the things that go with mental health, learning, remembering, solving problems. And we'll talk about the existential at the end as well as environmental. But we were looking at a person, if I was to be coaching you, looking at people from all of these different aspects of health. So we might think, oh, it's just sleep, right? But we realize that what happens during our day also affects our sleep at night. So we've got a lot of stress going on, a lot of things going on in our brain. We can definitely our sleep can be affected by that. Pain is another one. You have pain because you might have arthritis or an injury of some kind. And then because of pain, you can't sleep. And then because you're not sleeping, you have more pain. And it's this cycle that happens. Same with inflammation. All disease comes from inflammation. Energy, if you're regulating your energy throughout the day with food, you might find, again, that you're overeating because your energy is low if you're not sleeping well. You increase your cardio risk if you're not sleeping well. Reaction times. In the certification, they had a little video of this guy that was in a controlled atmosphere in a parking lot somewhere, and they had him drive, this route that they had coned off. And every once in a while, they would throw, like something at him that he had to try to avoid. They had him up for 2 days. He hadn't slept for 2 days, and they had electrodes on his brain, or on his, on his head, so that you could kind of see the brain waves. He was actually sleeping, but he was perceiving that he was awake, and then they'd, throw something out in front of him, and he didn't have good reaction time to avoid it. Obviously, it was a simulated situation, but the point is that you can be awake and you're really sleeping, especially if you're in those stages right before you really, really gotta sleep, they were forcing him to stay awake. So it was just kind of a interesting thing. Because you could see the guy, he looked, they had the camera right on him in the car. You could see he looked like he was awake, but his brain was telling him that the brain waves had slowed down to the point where he was sleeping.
Wow. Nice to know that you're driving a car.
Yeah, right. Yeah, let's not drive a car if we haven't had sleep for 2 days.
Yeah.
Emotional regulation again, motivation, performance. We're talking about exercise. Sometimes you just don't have the motivation. Is it because you need some sleep? You really need a rest day. That workout seemed really hard. Okay, hopefully we can get some sleep the next night. And then again, sleeping as we age. Unfortunately, all things get bad as we age. In middle age, we start going to bed earlier than maybe what we did in our teens and our early 20s, because now we have responsibilities and kids and work. And then there becomes stress because of all of those things as well. We might get a little bit more inefficient in our sleep as we age, and then the slow wave decreases. So those slow wave brains waves are decreasing as we get older. And then as an older adult, in more of that retirement age, our sleep tendencies continue to get, worse maybe, as we maybe take on some medications because of our health. Our brain is changing, and maybe we're less active, because not necessarily just physically active, because if you were exercising before when you were working and you're still exercising as a retired person, you just don't have as much stimuli in your atmosphere as you're going around your day. If you're at home a little bit more, you're not maybe exposed to as many people as you would be if you're working, that kind of thing. So all of those things, all that stimuli you don't even think about, but it can be affecting our sleep. All right, let's see here. Is there any notes on there? Yeah, and sometimes the sleep drive isn't as strong when we get older. All right, so this is a little bit more about differences in men and women. So the men think that they sleep fine, but in reality they don't really sleep that well, versus women think that they don't sleep well. In reality, the research shows that it's not as bad as they think. So it's just kind of interesting how we perceive ourselves. I thought that was an interesting research. And then again, the differences going on with women in menopause age. It can cause an increase in insulin resistance, causing more trips to the bathroom. The hot flashes, that overactive hypothalamus. The brain is basically, there's this feedback loop that's happening because of the hormonal changes. And then the cause and effect, again, happens like you're not getting enough sleep because you have hot flashes, and then you're having hot flashes because you're not getting enough sleep, and all the things that can happen with all those things. And then the men have also something called andropause, which is like menopause for the guy's side, but it doesn't happen until they're 70, where they have a decrease in their hormones, a decrease in their testosterone, and if you're not getting enough sleep, your testosterone gets low, and if your testosterone gets low, you can't get enough, you're not getting enough sleep. So it's kind of that cyclical cause and effect kind of thing that's happening again. And then more men have sleep apnea than women, but that's another common thing that can cause people to not sleep well. And then if you can fall asleep, a lot of times you can fall asleep, but you're not staying asleep. So there's two different things. One is early waking, waking before your alarm, before you really need to get up, waking up too early, if you will. Maybe it's a 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock wake time, and you just, it's like, well, the sun's not up, nobody else is up, I can't, the TV shows aren't on yet, whatever it is. And then there's biphasic, where you sleep really well for a couple of hours, and then you wake up and you feel alert, but you can't fall back to sleep. And they say it's about 45 minutes, and then you can go back to sleep for several more hours. So if that's you, where you get up to go to the bathroom and then you lay there for a while, and you're like, by the time you almost give up trying to go back to sleep, your body normally falls back to sleep. So, and again, we could, that this isn't like a diagnosis that you have this, I guess, problem, but it's just a name for when that happens. And these are normal, and I think like new moms and people that maybe have a puppy or that kind of thing, it's like, it's a phase, right? Like hopefully it's, we have these things that happen, but doesn't become a chronic thing. And we are very resilient. Our bodies are, yes, they're meant to have really good sleep, but if you don't have 1 or 2 nights of good sleep, you're probably going to be fine. You're still going to be able to do all the things. It's when it becomes chronic that it becomes a problem. You might find yourself, getting sick more often, or having those pain responses, and now you can't get rid of the pain because you can't sleep well because you have pain and all the things. So if you feel rested during the day, typically there's really no true sleep problems. Even if in your brain you think, okay, I can't possibly live on only 5 hours of sleep, maybe that's all you really need. But if you're sleeping, if you're feeling tired during the day, that's a really good indicator. Obviously, there's other factors, and we'll talk about that. It can be like alcohol and your food intake. Are you exercising excessively? Are you exercising too late in the day? Or are you not exercising? Trying to find that balance of things and trying to downregulate your nervous system. So if we're up here all the time and our nervous system is in that stress or that fight or flight, and we're not taking those times to activate our vagus nerve and get ourselves into that slow rest and digest, then that can be a problem too. So we'll talk about those things in just a little bit. So I like to think about your sleep on a scale of 1 to 10. So are you you're not probably always going to get a 10. And if you have any kind of apps that quantify your sleep, I have a Sleep Number bed, and it gives me a sleep score based on how often I get up, and how long I've been in bed, and how often I'm moving around. Do you have one too? Yeah. And quality of mattresses and pillows are very important. So sometimes it's just as simple as that, because we don't, days and weeks and years go by and we're like, I'm getting a little uncomfortable in my bed, or I can't sleep. And I think we pushed it too long. There was a time when the kids were little too, and that's probably why, but I was like, for about 5 years, I swear I didn't sleep very well. And then we got a new bed, and it was like magical. Like we should have done this a long time ago. But you're young and you don't think that could really be that much of have that much of an effect on you. But anyway, so let's go back to not being able to fall asleep. So anxiety over being able to fall asleep. Sometimes you get in your brain and you're like, oh, I can't fall asleep because I didn't fall asleep very well last night. Or you kind of get in this, again, cycle of things. Occasional sleep loss is normal. It's just telling yourself that you're maybe getting more sleep than you think you are. If you have an afternoon coffee habit, having something that's stimulating to your system a little too late in the day. If you sleep in, it takes about 16 hours for that ATP to accumulate in your body. So if you're trying to sleep in a short, sleep too long, or you sleep in, and now the next night you might not be able to fall asleep because all that ATP hasn't built up in your body, and you don't get much sunlight. Nowadays there's factories and buildings that, are really not exposed to light very much, and that can definitely play with your circadian rhythm, or even like working night shifts and things like that. And then you're just snuggling up to screens in the evenings. So again, that melatonin increases the sleep drive. So if you're lacking in that and your body's not producing that, it can affect your, feeling like that sleep drive isn't real strong. All right. Caffeine, let's just talk about that a little bit. I didn't know that 80% of the world's population consumes caffeine, because I'm not a coffee drinker, so I don't think that there's that many out there, but apparently that's the going rate now. So regular consumption of caffeine can increase your tolerance. So, maybe when you were younger you only had 1 cup, but now it takes 2 cups to have that same energy. And certainly, with fitness, a little bit of caffeine is gonna help you have a better workout, give you a little bit more energy, but you got to watch it, right? There's always that balance of having too much caffeine in your body, especially if you aren't one that metabolizes caffeine. I learned a long time ago that my body just doesn't metabolize caffeine. I just can't drink it. And I have drank it, but it's never been a good thing because I can't sleep at night. So, yeah. And I looked it up. There's like a gene that you don't have if you can't process that. But I'm only one of 20% in the world. So, but what's interesting is that ATP. There's these receptors. Again, I'm trying not to get too scientific, but there's these receptors, and basically the caffeine attaches to those receptors that the ATP is supposed to attach to. So now it's almost like the parking lot's full and the ATP can't get to the receptors. So that's as simple as I can make that. Anyway, okay, we'll go on to sleep and alcohol. So it's estimated that 1 in 10 Americans use alcohol to induce sleep. The unfortunate thing is that it does, as your body is processing, it does some not so good things. So initially, a lot of times people drink it to make them feel, relaxed. It does depress the central nervous system, so it might relieve their stress in the moment. But what happens overnight when your body is processing alcohol, it's hard on your liver, and you are also basically you could wake up because your body is craving it basically. So especially since we drink alcohol at night most of the time, your body is like, it almost like it gets addicted even if you just have it once. And obviously if you're having it on a regular, you are probably addicted at a certain level. And your body just basically creates, when your body digests alcohol, because if you didn't have this system in your body, you would die from drinking alcohol. But your body has this system that basically breaks it down into formaldehyde, and then it's processing that during the night. So if your body is processing that formaldehyde, which is not a good thing, if you've ever smelled that, you probably know, and it's not doing all the other things, like repairing or rebuilding your lean tissue, boosting your immune system, and all the things that our body should be doing. So it's busy doing something else. So it can actually be this, again, snowball, this cause and effect of now we are, more anxious, or, and we need more alcohol, and then, it's this cyclical thing, we're not getting sleep and all that. So I feel strongly about alcohol, and I don't need to give you my opinion about that. So let's just move on. So there is a real reason so let's move on to like, what can we do, right? So like, that's all the bad things, maybe. What can we do? What can we control? And I like to have this is kind of like a therapy circle. I don't know if you want to call it that. What are the things that we can control in regards to our sleep, and what are the things we can't control? We can't control the train or the plane that comes over at whatever time of the night that wakes us up. But there's probably a lot of things that we can control, and we'll talk about that, especially with what you're doing during the day that can potentially help us get going at night, finding that stronger sleep drive. So putting away screens, I mean, these are some of the recommendations. Having a little pre-sleep ritual. You can come in.
Come on in, Andrew.
Hey,
Hi, Andrew.
there's just one chair left. Oop. What did I just do? Sorry about that. Putting away screens 30 minutes before bed. You could even say putting away screens more than that. Spending 10 minutes writing down tomorrow's to-do list, getting those things out of your brain. I have a piece of paper, a little notepad, and a pen next to on my nightstand, and so even if it's in the middle of the night or right before I'm falling asleep, if I have something in my brain that I gotta get out, I gotta write it down. And sometimes I don't have my glasses on and I'm just chicken scratching something, but the act of putting it down on paper and not having it in my brain can be just magical. So, foam rolling or stretching before you go to bed, dimming the lights, playing soft music. If you have any kind of Apple or Spotify or something like that, you can search sleep music. There's a lot of places that, like there's a Calm app, and even in those music stores, you can find some where they talk you through relaxing. And we'll get into that in just a little bit, but reading a book also can help. So these are the other things that have to do with the environment that we're in. The most comfortable temperature. If you're, in that age where you're still having hot flashes, that might be different than what it once was. You might find that you've got too many comforters on, your pajamas aren't warm enough, or whatever it happens to be. Maybe turning the temperature in the room down at night. Using a white noise app. I know we were talking about this a little bit earlier. Our family does a white noise app, but other people feel like that's not for them, and that's okay, but just an option. And again, it does, for me, we live up on the hill and we hear a lot of wind, and for me it blocks out the sound of the wind. So when it is windy, I only hear the white noise, so it works for us. But installing light blocking shades or curtains. We've all probably been in that hotel that has all the lights, right? Like the light from under the door, the light from the curtains, the microwave is like right at the bed level, which is not normally what you have at home. Hotel rooms I always have to bring things to lay over things and clip the curtains closed and all the things to make sure that it's dark enough in there. And that kind of goes back to that, getting that light, first light of the day, but then also telling your body, okay, it's time to have the lights come down. And then removing clutter. So your environment, if you've got tasks in your bedroom, or if you've got a mess in your bedroom, that can affect you, whether you think that it does or not unconsciously. If you've got like a pile of clothes that you're supposed to sew, or a pile of books that you haven't read, or just things that may be a little bit negative to you, get them out of your room, and then make sure that like your bedspread is really nice and smooth, making your bed, make sure that your floor is clean, your nightstand doesn't have a lot of junk on it. That all that stuff can play an effect on how you sleep, whether you think it does or not. And then having places that you safely can get to the bathroom, having a little bit of light, but not too much light. So like turning on the light like you would during the day, those kinds of things can tell your brain that it's daytime. And so then you might wake up too much, and then it'll be hard to get back to sleep. Aligning nutrition, kind of going back to that caffeine, minimizing alcohol in the evening. If you're gonna drink it, maybe drink it with meal and not any later. Making sure that you're I call it preloading your nutrition. So you're drinking a good amount of water in the morning. You're drinking 16, this is kind of my rule, 16 as soon as you get up. Before you leave the house, drink 16 ounces of water. Drinking 16 ounces of water while you're exercising, and then drinking half your body weight in ounces of water by the time supper time comes. And then you're not drinking that much, maybe just a sip or two before you go to bed. And then hopefully you won't have to go to the bathroom as much. I know people have shared with me that they get up 3-4 times to go to the bathroom, and I was like, oh wow, that could be very disruptive to your sleep and can cause problems. Watching for stimulants in your food and your supplements. Green tea and ginkgo or guarana or ginseng, all of those, caffeine in a protein powder that you might be using, or some other supplements or medications. There could be side effects of medications that cause you to be awake or just not have that deep sleep. So being aware of those kinds of things is important. You just never know. I was taking a protein powder and I didn't realize that it had ginseng in it. I mean, it had ginseng in it, but I didn't know how my body responded to ginseng, and it was just too stimulating, and I stopped taking that protein powder and I didn't have a problem after that. So I was glad that I can kind of pinpoint what that was. And then these are some of the practices and daily actions that we can take. So set a sleep target and bedtimes. So I think Jennifer shared with me that, she was
8:30.
Yeah. Now it's 8:30, and before it wasn't.
Yeah,
and
no,
so
8:30 we were in bed. Like, I'll kick my son out by 8 o'clock. Say it's bedtime.
Yeah. Yep. So determining when you this is kind of like a reverse engineer it. When do you need to get up? You don't probably need to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning. Maybe that's when you've been when you've been waking up. I've even recommended staying up longer so you can sleep longer in the morning. If you are going to bed at 8:30 and you're waking up at 6 o'clock, that's a really good night's sleep, right? If you're going to bed at 8:30 and waking up at 4 or 3 in the morning, that might not be what you want to do. So then you shift your hours a little bit. So, and then if you want to, experiment again, incrementally increasing the sleep each time, each week until the desired amount. So if you feel like I'm not sleeping that much, can we make some shifts and add a few more minutes or go to bed just a little bit earlier as the weeks pass, and then see if that kind of sticks. Adjusting that circadian rhythm. And then prioritizing sleep, just organizing your daily routine. I know when we're young and busy and kids and running people around, it sometimes can be, and I did this where, I'm doing dishes and laundry at 10 o'clock at night, and then I hop in bed by 10:30 and I can't fall asleep, and it's like, I don't know why. It's like just a half an hour ago I was on my feet running around, and so yeah, making sure that you're prioritizing sleep and communicating that though with your family. So there was a time where I was like, you know what, the dishes are not going to get done and the laundry's not going to get done. It'll be there in the morning for me. And then I would be able to get up early if I went to bed at the right time. I'd get up early and I'd be able to do those tasks before I went to work. But sometimes you think that you have to do it at night, and that wasn't always working. And then reducing unimportant activities that interfere with sleep. So being really active at night, like having a really hard workout too late in the day can affect you. And then having those sleep boundaries with family and friends. I give the example that my brother at his house, he's got 2 teenagers, so at 9 o'clock they put their phones away, everybody in the family. And if we do a little family texting too late in the day, he'll tell us to put our phones away. Yeah, he's not going to be part of the texting conversation if it's too late at night. So putting your phone on do not disturb so people know that you're not going to respond to them at that point. If you do have friends that like to reach out late. And then having building that morning energizing routine, getting up, letting your body see the sun, letting your eyes see the sun, increasing that light and in movement and the noise in your day, maybe putting on some more energetic music. If you had some relaxing music at night, if you like music, having something that's a little bit peppier, and then maybe even getting a walk in or doing a little stretching routine to kind of get your body moving. And then that ATP starts being put into your body, and you're having that energy throughout the day, and then you're feeling that sleep cycles start, as you're dimming the lights at night, and creating that morning routine that can then help that cycle, that circadian rhythm again. Again, I kind of talked about exercise. Avoiding intense exercise too late in the day. If you do feel like you want to exercise late in the day, you were just super busy and you didn't do anything, you just feel like you need to move your body, making sure that it's just a short time and not as intense. And then exploring sleep beliefs and identities. So sometimes we say, oh, I'm just a night owl, and I just am a night owl. That's how I've always been. And sometimes it could be just keeping an open mind on maybe if I try to experiment with this, maybe I'm gonna find out that I'm really not a night owl. Focus on what you can control, kind of going back to this. What are the things that I can control? I can control the temperature of my room. I can control that my room is clean. I can control that, that I have this little routine. I'm going to dim the lights. What I cannot control, maybe my sleep partner is snoring, or again, the train that comes by at, a certain time of the night. We live by the hospital, so we hear sirens sometimes. The helicopter comes every once in a while, and I always feel like that's somebody's, family. And so then I feel a little emotional about that, but you try to put that out of your mind. And then again, kind of assessing your sleep on a scale of 1 to 10, how bad really was it? And if you want to track it, you can, over time, you can kind of see, yeah, my sleep isn't as good as I think it is. It's always a 5. Like, how can I make it better? Or you might be like, okay, that wasn't too bad. That was an 8. I had another 8. I might have a 5. You might realize that it's really, again, not as bad as you might think it is. Or even like journaling your dreams, writing those things down. I don't know, it might be just interesting to see what happens. If it causes you to not dream as much, that you're kind of having, again, getting it out of your head and putting it on a piece of paper, it's an act of this isn't serving me right now. So I don't know. That's just kind of an activity that you could do. And again, going back to kind of experimenting with your sleep a little bit, gathering data, be consistent to track your sleep, looking for sleep data and trends, so you can kind of go, okay, well, what does this really look like? It might be different than what you were perceiving it to be. And then when you're trying to get back to sleep, creating a mental imagery, counting sheep, right? Like everybody, that's the one that everybody knows. But it might be something where you took a trip to somewhere and you were feeling really calm there, or there might be something else that calms you. And then sometimes you just have to give up trying. Sometimes we try too hard. We get in our head and we start like rationalizing, okay, and I've done this before, I'm like, okay, if I don't fall asleep in the next 5 minutes, I'm gonna get up, And it's like, you play this little game with yourself. And if you can try not to look at the time, right? So that sometimes can get us really messed up in our head too. Okay, I only have 2 more hours to sleep, but if I don't fall back to sleep, then I'm gonna really feel tired today. All the things that we talk ourselves into. Getting fresh air, again, sometime during your day, getting fresh air so that you have that, I don't know, it always feels like, those days that we can get outside more, those first spring days, and spend some more time outside, that is the time that we really can get a good night's sleep. So this was kind of interesting. So if you get in a morning walk or an evening walk, no matter what the temperature is, it can help regulate your circadian rhythm and help you sleep. But if you walk outside between noon and 3, the walks don't affect your circadian rhythm. I just thought that was kind of interesting. Yeah. Yeah. So between noon and 3. Shift it a little later or shift it a little earlier. I don't really pay much attention to my walks, but because we have a dog and I have to walk her every day. But it's mostly, sometimes it's 8 or 9 at night. Not as much now that the kids are out of the house, but there was many times or many years where whenever I could fit it in, it didn't really matter. But anyway, trying to take some deep breaths. When you're walking fast and get your heart rate up, again, that ATP is there building up, and it can help you sleep. Nap. So they did talk about that, 20 to 30 minutes. You shouldn't nap too much. Ideally, really just even kind of getting to that that shutdown mode for about 10 to 20 minutes is ideal. My napping situation, if I really need a nap, it's usually because it's like I haven't finished sleeping, right? I had to get up early for something. If I want to finish sleeping, I will be able to lay down, and I have to be in my bed. I can't like be, on a couch or anything. And I will fall asleep almost immediately, and I will wake up exactly an hour later. That I don't even have to set an alarm. I usually do just because, in case I don't want to, But there's been many times where that's happened to me, and I'm like, I don't know how that works. Like, it's just an hour, exactly an hour, and I wake up. So, avoid napping if you have trouble falling asleep at night, because maybe that's not really what you need. And then these are the top 3 sleep disorders. So there are, official diagnoses of sleep disorder. Hopefully nobody here has these, but the sleep apnea, I know that, that's pretty common, having the CPAP machine. Obviously you have to get used to that, having that on at night. And then narcolepsy, just being excessively tired during the day. It's more of a neurological thing. And then parasomnia, sleepwalking, moving excessively, sleep eating. My brother-in-law apparently slept. He ate, slept, or slept eating. I don't know, sleep eating. He did that, and he took the mattress off his bed and put it on the floor because he was afraid that he was going to, do that again. So he was walking around the house. And he was thinking that he was going to fall out of bed or something. Anyway, so I don't know. You just never know. And if it happens once in a while, maybe. I feel like I've heard it mostly with kids. Kids at certain stages will do that. But you just never know. That is probably a true problem if that happens. And then supplements. So magnesium is the one that, everybody's deficient in magnesium nowadays. Dark leafy vegetables, if you eat these things, you will hopefully improve. There's also supplementing. Melatonin, it influences your circadian rhythm. Again, dimming those lights drops the temperature of your body. It's important if you're going to supplement that you're using that properly. So seek out somebody that knows about nutrition if you're going to be doing that. Tryptophan is the amino acid in turkey that we, typically the reason why we sleep on Thanksgiving Day, but it's in other high protein foods as well. And then valerian, that calms the nervous system. It's usually like a tea or a supplement of some kind. And then different therapies. So typically if somebody really truly has a sleep problem, they're going to offer them some kind of mental health professional first to get them to do some, therapy, and then kind of last resort getting them some prescribed sleep medication that isn't typically now what the doctors will do maybe as often as they once did it back in the day. And then acupuncture is an underutilized way to reduce pain and inflammation as well as helping you sleep. So if you have ever tried acupuncture for other things, that might be something that you want to try. And again, kind of doing something to get that out of that cycle, right? Doing something different. And stress reduction. So breathing is a good one that we can do either if we've woken up in the middle of the night and can't get back to sleep, or if we're trying to get our cells back to sleep, doing some kind of a breathing thing. And practicing this breathing during the day, we do it in our body balance classes. Maybe you take a Silver or Forever Well class, a chair-based class, they might be doing some calming at the end, breathing in for 4 counts, holding for 4 counts, and exhaling for 4 counts, and then repeating that. That's just a super simple breathing technique. It's called box breathing. And then the long and short, so you breathe in real quick and you breathe out really long. You can do that vice versa, I'm sure. And there's all kinds of different ways that you can breathe, and it's just maybe focusing on your breath that then clears your mind and you can fall asleep. It can relax your body. I just have, the Apple Music has some meditation music, and there's some that are in a certain megahertz that is supposed to, resonate with your brain to help you sleep as well. So the reason why those kinds of things work is because we're activating the vagus nerve, which is the biggest nerve in your body, which is governs the head, the face, the neck, and internal organs. And it activates your parasympathetic nervous system, and it basically is, tells your body to calm down. It's kind of that signal that it's time to rest here. So if you are super active during the day, make sure you're giving yourself adequate time to get into that parasympathetic nervous system, and doing some breathing or some calming things, listening to calming music can really help you activate that. And then some other alternative ideas. I've used aromatherapy. I put lavender oil on myself every night. That really helps to calm me down. Again, if I have pain or something, I might use peppermint or some other oils to reduce that pain. It might just, I get wrist pain every once in a while, depending upon what I did. If I, did a clean and press or something, I might put some anti-inflammatory oils on my wrist. You might need to adjust your bed, especially if you or your sleep partner snores, has that sleep apnea, and then making it comfortable. Maybe you need a new bed, I don't know. Having a comfortable pillow. Anybody travel with their pillow? No matter what, they're taking their pillow with them? Yeah, yes, I am one of those people. I probably have only had I don't want to say 4 different pillows all my adult life. I need to get the same kind of pillow, if I need to replace it. So, and then as an experiment, doing some kind of meditation, see if that helps you sleep better. Again, tracking those nights of sleep. Does it help you get into that rest and digest mode, powering down at the end of the night with decreasing the lights and that kind of thing. Sleeping apart from your partner. So that might be a little controversial, but just see if there is any relation to maybe your partner's making you too warm. Maybe they are snoring. Maybe if they've got a cold or something, you might have to sleep apart for a short time just to experiment again. And this includes pets. I know it's hard to get the dog out of the house or out of the bedroom. They're just going to sleep where they're going to sleep, but maybe for a time you have somebody else have them in their bed or in their room. Chiropractic care basically helps maximize your nervous system. Your body systems work better when you get regular chiropractic care. And then massage. Also, again, both of those things really help down-regulate your nervous system. They can help reduce stress, make your body work optimally. And then going back to that deep health, we talked about physical, the emotional, the moods, the environmental, the mental health, the relational, and then going to the existential, which is basically that there's a higher power, being connected to a higher power, having a meaning in life, a belief that we were created for a purpose, and prayer is a tool that we can use. Anybody say, now I lay me down to sleep when they're little? Yep. So God wants us, He invites us to give our troubles to Him. And so that's really important to have that. And sometimes that can be the thing that we just say, what, this burden or this stress is too much for me. Please take it. And then we can focus on getting to sleep. Living a life of purpose and having some reason to get out of bed in the morning, especially when you're retired, we want to have this purpose. We want to have things to do in our life, in our day, that then can, make us tired, and so that we can sleep better at night. All right. These are just my people that I recommend for local practitioners. If you need them, I can send them to you. And that's about it. If you guys don't have any questions, that's all. What do you think? Is there anything that you didn't know?
Oh, yeah.
Yvonne?
Lots of it.
So this thing between 12 and 3, is it just walking or all exercise?
I think it's probably just walking, just being outside in the light. it just doesn't help with your circadian rhythm. It's fine to walk that way. You know, it's fine to walk at that time of the day. If you're trying to adjust your circadian rhythm, that's basically what it was referring to. Yeah. So if you don't have a problem with the time that you start, you know, going to sleep and this time that you wake up, it probably isn't going to matter. But if you're doing that experiment where you're trying to shift things, just avoid walking during that time. But that's a good question to clarify that. Yeah.
I was surprised that came up because they said that the best time to exercise is at 3 o'clock during the day.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah, and it came up in a study because it's because your body's awake. You've got most of your stuff done. You're taking a break. You know, people would do it on their whatever, or their work day was done.
Yeah.
And it was just before supper or whatever. But it was like, I always thought it would be morning because once you get it done, then
Yeah.
you
I had more
yeah.
energy
Yeah.
after I do it.
Yeah, that's so
So
interesting.
that's what I thought too. It's like,
Huh.
But 3 o'clock must be, you know. I suppose if I was working, you know, that would be the perfect time because, but that's not realistic to
Yeah.
either. Because you know what will happen? There'll be a million different things you have to do.
Exactly. Yeah, I feel like we're all morning exerciser people right here, right?
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
And
That's good.
yeah, it gives you energy for the rest of your day, and then you don't have to think about like, oh, am I exercising too late or too intensely too late at night and all that. So, yeah. What do you think?
It was good.
Did you learn?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, thank you
All
for
right.
offering.
Yeah, we are starting our healthy habits. So we've got a good number of coaches that are starting our healthy habits. You can do one-on-one coaching. We're doing a weight loss challenge for April, which is almost full. But if you really feel like it's kind of like personal training, but on the other spectrum of the nutrition, the sleep habits, the stress management, and that kind of thing. So all of our coaches have had the precision nutrition certification, and that talks about those kinds of things, not maybe in as depth as this, but we've got Pro Coach, which is an app that you use that basically allows us to coach you through that, and there's all these different goals that you can have. You pick a goal, 1 or 2 things, and then you can talk to us through this Pro Coach app if it's about being accountable for nutrition, for sleep habits, whatever the habits are, we can plug them in, and then you can say, I did that task, and so your coach knows that you've done those things. So it's a new app that we have access to now, and we're going to be using it with our healthy habits coaching. So that is another option. If you feel like, I really need help, and I don't maybe need to go to my doctor, it's not that bad, but maybe having somebody else look at your sleep schedule or having somebody else look at your nutrition can really, just bring fresh eyes to it, and they can give you some options. So the story that we had in our newsletter about Audrey, she was working with Angie, and Audrey was a shift worker. So she had, I can't remember exactly if she was like a third shifter or if she did early morning, but her circadian rhythm was off. And Angie said, let's just see if we can get you better sleep. And she worked on that task, and she was able to lose more weight, which was her goal. But what she did wasn't more exercise or nutrition, it was more sleep. So that was kind of interesting.
Yeah,
That was
that is interesting.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, if you guys have any questions, please let me know. Otherwise, thanks for coming. I hope you learned something and that you can maybe do some experiments and try something new.